Microsoft has been in the mobile phone business for quite a while. I've always wanted to give their phones a try, referring to the ones from about 2010 that were meant to compete with Android and iOS. I never did do this though, due to what I felt at the time was a lopsided price versus demand. Now that these phones are no longer in production and are dirt cheap on eBay, I decided now's my chance to take a look at Microsoft's obsolete Windows Phone. I was able to find some reasonable deals on eBay for 5 Windows phones, selling for a total of $100. I felt the price was worth it based on the excellent condition of the phones. I'm not sure if these were of the flagship category of the time, but I felt they should be sufficient in providing some insight to what a Windows phone was like. As I unwrap these phones, I'm noticing something I couldn't see from looking at the product photos on eBay. These phones have a slightly different and unique design to them. Although they are just basic smartphones, the shape and contours of them are different from the typical phones I've seen over the years. I'm not sure if this design carried over to newer models over time, but it's nice to see an attempt was made to try to look different from the rest. I was told all of these phones are working, so I probably won't have to do a teardown to replace parts. I will give them a good washing with alcohol before I go over each one to see what I can learn. While cleaning these phones, I did notice the plastic rear cover on all of them, so no glass or metal. What was surprising is that some of these phones feel like the rear plastic is coated with that matte black texture that gets sticky and starts to peel off after some years. I'm glad that this coating doesn't seem to be doing that. I never really did any research on these phones, so I didn't really pay attention to what models I had purchased. Straight out of the packaging they came in, I kind of felt this was the order I would have guessed their progression would have been by age. The industry started out with smaller phones, then realized people wanted larger phones over time. As you can see from the labeled sleeves I made for each phone, Microsoft actually went larger first, then smaller afterwards. The screen size isn't that large to begin with, only 4.5 inches on the larger phone, but the smaller phones feel pretty tiny in hand. And this is the rear view of those phones in the same order. I didn't plan on replacing any parts, but I did want to take a quick look at the inside for curiosity's sake. Taking off the cover ended up being pretty simple. Remove 2 screws from the bottom, then bend that edge away from the screen and it'll separate pretty easily. Once again, a very different way from how other phones come apart. After that, I had to use some picks to disconnect the snapped-in cover the rest of the way. Also, I forgot to remove the SIM card, so the phone did get stuck when I tried to get it apart. The insides do look pretty basic, nothing stands out. There seems to be a lot of tape for some reason, otherwise that's it. Nothing out of the ordinary, so moving on. Personally, I've always felt the look of the tiles on the Windows phones looked really good, but how functional they were is something I'll have to see for myself. On the Windows desktop side, there was a similar look with tiles. I felt this was a great framework for integrating server and network monitoring tools from different companies. The tile layout could be customized based on what I want to monitor, and it would stay like that every time I logged in. Maybe someone else may want to monitor other things and they could create their own customized tile layout. It could have been very useful, except no one seemed to take advantage of it. I'm wondering if these tiles on Windows Phone could have been used in the same way. I guess we'll never know. One thing I found interesting on one of the phones that had a pre-installed file management app was that the folder hierarchy that's set up by default uses the standard Android folder structure, including the default Android folder in the root. I couldn't find anything online regarding this configuration, but it's kind of interesting to wonder if Windows Phone could be just another ROM version of Android. The last thing I want to do is test 2 of the Windows phones to see how they compare at doing the same task. On the left is the Nokia 620 and on the right is the Nokia 920. Something occurred on the 620 that I wasn't expecting. It notified me that a software update was waiting, so I let the update run, which is why you see the spinning gears animation on the screen. I thought it was strange that an 8-year-old phone even had an update server that was still online, since support ended about 6 years ago. The update ran for quite some time. You're viewing it at 10x time-lapse and maybe faster if this part of the script is too short for the video clip. After it was done, it rebooted, displayed a short message stating a successful update to Windows Phone 8.1, and went to the tiled home screen as it usually would after boot up. Looking at a side-by-side of the About screen on both phones, it looks like the 620 is now updated to Windows Phone 8.1 after that update that just ran. This is designated by the line that reads OS version about 5 lines from the top. The OS version on the 920, which should no longer be receiving updates, is at Windows Phone 8.0. The first test is to see what it's like to access YouTube through the browser. I'm testing how long it takes to hopefully get to the same YouTube screen on both phones. Once there, I want to also see how well the same video plays. The next test is to access Wikipedia and scroll through an article which tests basic navigation and browser compatibility. If either of the phones have any problems, I'd have to blame it on the age more than anything, because Wikipedia might have page elements that just aren't compatible with the almost 8-plus-year-old browsers on both phones. The site you see here is the Windows Phone site from December of 2012, courtesy of the Wayback Machine. Scrolling through this site and seeing the number of phones Microsoft had available during Christmas of 2012 is kind of impressive. I had never really bothered to stay up to date on Windows phones, but I'm surprised at this specific point in time how many phones they had available. I guess I'm surprised because I never realized they had so many phones at any given time. The Windows Phone OS was released sometime around 2010 and lasted till about 2015. It was replaced by Windows 10 Mobile, which had a similar look to the interface and itself lasted till somewhere around 2020. It was interesting to finally get to use a Windows phone, though almost all the apps no longer work. I'm glad one of the phones had a decent browser experience on a site like YouTube. I'm probably going to continue experimenting with the 620. I did want to try the LTE capability to see if it's compatible with modern-day LTE service. If the results are worth sharing, I'll make another video. Leave your questions and comments in the comments section below. That's all I have for now, and I'll catch you in the next video.